You ever look around at the world today and just get this feeling that the old rule books, they just don't apply anymore? Like we're all living through the fastest and maybe the strangest era in human history? If you feel that way, you are definitely not alone. It feels like we need a new map for this new territory. And today, that's exactly what we're going to explore. You know that feeling? It isn't just in your head. It comes from a really deep mismatch between the world as it is right now and the old concepts we're trying to use to make sense of it. Our map is failing us because the landscape itself has completely changed. I mean, just look around. We've got AI that's starting to create its own meaning. Our very sense of who we are, our self, is constantly being pulled apart and put back together online. We are literally re-engineering life itself. And all of this is happening while our global economic and climate systems are changing at a speed we can barely even track. The old categories are just breaking down. What's wild is that the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead saw this coming over a century ago. He warned us that our whole worldview, one based on looking at the world as a collection of static, separate things, was about to become obsolete. So that's the big question, right? If our old map is broken, what does the new one look like? Okay, so the new map, it requires this really fundamental shift in how we see everything. It asks us to stop seeing the world as a collection of static things and to start seeing it as this incredible network of dynamic processes. Here's the difference. The old map looks at a rock and asks, what is this thing? But the new map looks at the same rock and asks, what is the geological process that is happening here? See the shift? The old map sees a fixed object. The new map sees a slow motion event. And that simple change, it changes absolutely everything. So, to navigate this new world of processes, we need a new tool, a new core concept. And that concept is phase. This idea of phase is basically the key that unlocks how change actually happens in the universe. And the best way to get this is to just think about water, right? Water isn't just one thing. It's a system that can exist in these radically different states, or phases: ice, liquid, steam. It's all the same H2O molecules, but how they're organized, how they behave together, is completely different. A small, continuous change in temperature causes this dramatic, sudden leap. It's what scientists call the moment where more becomes different. And that leap, that's called a phase transition. And this isn't some slow, gradual change. Nope. It's a sudden, total reorganization of the entire system. It's that instant where everything, whether it's water molecules or a social network, just flips into a whole new state of being. Now, the other side of that coin is phase coherence. This is what's happening inside of phase. It's when all the individual parts, the water molecules, the little magnetic spins in a piece of iron, even people in a crowd, start to align, to sync up, and act like a single unified whole. It's basically how order emerges from total chaos. Okay, so we've got these two big ideas, these sudden leaps called phase transitions, and this emergent unity called phase coherence. Now here's the wild part. This isn't just about water and magnets. This two-step pattern, this dance of transition and coherence, it is literally everywhere. Let's take a look. So in physics, you've got the classic example. You take a piece of iron, all the atoms have their little spins pointing in totally random directions. It's a mess. But as you cool it down, they hit a critical point and snap! They all align. A phase transition creates phase coherence and boom, you have a magnet. In biology, well, the origin of life itself starts to look like this. It wasn't some 1 in a trillion accident. It was an expected phase transition. Once that primordial soup of chemicals reached a certain level of complexity, a new, self-sustaining network just emerged. Non-life transitioned into life. Think about your own mind right now. Consciousness itself seems to be a product of phase coherence. You have billions of individual neurons, and on their own, they're just noise. But when they start to synchronize their firing rhythms across these huge networks in your brain, a coherent global state of awareness just pops into existence. That is a phase of the brain. And this exact same pattern is happening right now in artificial intelligence. Researchers are finding that these big AI models don't just get smarter in a straight line. As you feed them more data, they hit these critical points, and then suddenly, almost unpredictably, they gain entirely new abilities, like doing math or reasoning. These are phase transitions in AI behavior. And if you zoom out, you see that human history follows the exact same pattern. We have these massive society-wide phase transitions. But the crucial part, the thing to really notice, is that the time between them is shrinking dramatically. Thousands of years to get to agriculture, a couple hundred to industry, a few decades to the information age, and now, here we are. So, if this pattern is truly universal, what does it all mean for us? For you and me? Well, when you start using this phase map, it doesn't just explain the world out there. It completely changes how you understand your inner world, yourself, what knowledge is, even where meaning comes from. This table really lays it out. The self stops being this fixed little thing inside your head and becomes a stable pattern playing out over time. Knowledge isn't just about downloading facts anymore. It's about getting your mind in sync with the world. And meaning, well, meaning isn't something we just invent. It might be a property of the universe itself. Think about a whirlpool in a river. It's a perfect analogy. The actual water molecules in that whirlpool are completely different from one moment to the next. They're always flowing through. But the form, the pattern of the whirlpool, that stays. That's you. That's the self. It's not a thing. It's a stable process, a coherent pattern that holds itself together through time. And knowledge becomes this really beautiful, active process. You know that aha moment when a really complex idea finally just clicks into place? That feeling is resonant alignment. It's your brain's internal patterns literally getting in phase with the patterns of reality. It's not about having a copy of the world in your head. It's about being in harmony with it. And this all brings us right back to today, to that feeling that things are strange, that they're changing fast. This new map gives us a really powerful way to ask maybe the most important question there is. What phase are we in right now? Because for the first time in history, you have these three massive systems: our global civilization, the planet's entire ecosystem, and a brand new non-biological intelligence. And they're all becoming deeply tangled together. They aren't separate things anymore. They're interacting, feeding back on each other, and forming one single planetary scale system. So, think about it. If this new, globally connected system is getting closer and closer to a critical point, just like water getting hotter and hotter before it boils, and if all of history shows us this pattern of accelerating leaps into new levels of organization, then the final question really isn't if a phase transition is coming. The question is, what new phase are we all about to enter?